Agenda, she's been bugging us about leaving up there.
This is just the general evaluator.
Yeah, I know, but the general evaluator has to evaluate the evaluator, so the evaluators have to come first, right?
That's right, sorry.
Yeah, I just missed it. I missed it on the...
She introduced
Oh, but
us.
you introduced.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
that's it. I'm sorry. Charlene, our general evaluator.
It's my pleasure now to introduce Scott, who will evaluate Julie. Scott?
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Julie, I love your enthusiasm. I feel like we're brother and sisters in the, hands waving, only you have much better control than I do. You had, whereas mine tend to be flapping, you had good poise, good presence throughout your presentation. I like the way that you walked out among us, kind of brought us into you, and then came back to a position of control behind the podium with your bottles of wine as physical handouts and objects of demonstration of what you're speaking about. Great combination of using something physical to exemplify what you're talking about, giving us stories, again, to create a visual image of the wineries, of the wine at the end, of not rotating. Excellent use of all of that, while at the same time moving around, looking at us, doing the gestures. The whole point of this speech was for her to use body gestures, eye imagery, body language. It was more about the body and movement and physical attributes as the actual message itself, and they complemented each other. Excellent job. I really have very little in the way of any criticism through here. I thought it was well organized. You let us know at the beginning, or you had it well thought out with different steps through there, what you were presenting to us. The persona, as I said, I thought brought an excitement or energy to the whole presentation. I covered everything so quickly right at the beginning. And there's a whole checklist of things for the presentation where you're animated, friendly, genuine. All I can say is yes, yes, yes. The one part, though, at the end that kind of got to me was that I wasn't really sure what the conclusion punch was, because for me it was not to rotate my bottles of wine that I have in my cellar, which I don't. But when I do, I won't.
Would you repeat that, please?
So there was the history of how you came into loving wine. There's a little bit of background about wineries themselves and a few tips about the individual types of wine and then not rotating your bottles. So kind of a smattering of history, you personally, and then application. So from that standpoint, it's excellent. I was waiting for a little bit more of a punch at the end about motivating us to go out and do our own winery. They kind of lacked that wrapped together conclusion to it, was I'd say my only critique. But the intro, the body, and the points through there were excellent. You had me engaged. I really enjoyed it. Anything else I can think of, I can't, so I won't, and I have a light. So thank you very much.
And now I'd like to introduce Diane, who will be evaluating Maria.
Well, I am just in awe of the amount of growth in your speech. I'm really almost choked up because it was such an amazing transformation from the very beginning, the way you asked a question and got the audience engaged. Clearly, your purpose was to inform people about what it looks like to go through the job process, especially someone coming into the market in a new capacity. I loved how you used humor throughout the speech several times and was very relaxed. The way you stood, so much more confident. The way you made eye contact with everyone. The way you had humor about yourself and your whole engagement with the process, I thought was just really excellent. The process that you took us through, I thought was really important and really relevant. The way you started, you thought it was going to be a certain way, and you walked through the various steps of what it looked like for you. that you had done all of the right things, you had been the top of your class, you had created the portfolio. And what I loved about it is you brought in, I think, one of the most difficult things that people don't understand when you're looking for a job is the human part of it, where you were able to bring forward the fact, I did all the right things, why isn't it working? That's huge. So I'm glad that you included that in the speech. The way you got to the point where you took a little break and went to Italy, I thought that was a good mid-portion of your speech. I liked very much how you explored the possibilities of doing networking. Again, you're leading us through these steps. Then you wanted to start your own business, that you thought that would be a good alternative. Again, anybody who's looked for a job has probably gone in that direction and taken that action, and what your results were with that. The bottom line message and the conclusion, I think, you made very clear in that it's tough out there, you're having to consider different alternatives. If you could give people any kind of advice, it would be to maybe do the degree portion a little bit different by volunteering. Again, this is all important and relevant information that will help people when they go out and try to go through a process themselves. And then at the end, you kind of wrapped it up. You really, I think, had a conclusion, and you could have finished at the conclusion when you went from the experience and the education and personality is more than experience. And you went through that whole thing and you said, I could have volunteered or done the part-time job. I think you could have ended, for myself, I think you could have ended there because I think that was a great way to kind of wrap it up. And then I saw you kind of went around it a second time. I didn't think you really needed to do that. Overall, the content, the presentation, was awesome.
I'd like to call for the timer report.
Yes, they are all qualified.